Good evening, everyone. We have a 10-year-old male child, second by birth order, born of a non-consanguineous marriage, Maratha by community, who presented to our hospital at 9 months of age with severe pallor requiring transfusion. He was worked up for the same and diagnosed as beta thalassemia homozygous by HPLC of both the child and the parents. Since then, he was on regular transfusion for the same. He was being transfused every 25th day. He was also started on iron chelation, deferesirox, at age of 5 years. At 6th year, in 2010, on routine annual screening for the viral markers, he was detected to have antibodies against hepatitis C. However, there were no other symptoms. On examination, his vitals were stable. There was no jaundice. Per abdomen examination revealed liver of 3 centimeters, which was firm, and no spleen. We further worked up for the same. In the liver function.
Hold on, go back to the slide, examination slide, and history slide also. Go back. History, go. Okay, no. Go down. Next slide. Yes. From Dr. Mamta, would like to know one thing, that what she has mentioned, that routine annual screening for viral markers. So it is every year you do in thalassemia patients, and what are the markers which you are using?
We do the 3 markers, that is, one is HIV antibodies, hepatitis B surface antigen, that is HBsAg, and HCV antibodies.
Okay, anti-HCV. So
yes.
It's a routine for all thalassememic patients?
Yes, annually they are screened.
Multi-transfused. Good.
Yes.
Okay, go to the next slide, that examination. This examination shows liver 3 centimeter below subcostal margin, which must have been firm in consistency. Span was increased.
Yes, sir.
Right. But here I am little surprised. Spleen is not palpable. So spleen, could you see, normally when we see thalassemia even at 1 year of age or 6 months of age when they start, you may have the spleen. But here the spleen is not there. I am a little bit
intrigued, I know. But so, I think this is a good sign, because that shows this child is very...
So you can have thalassemia without splenomegaly
yes.
also.
In fact, their spleen regresses once you transfuse them well. When hypertransfusion is given, the spleen regresses and you may not have a palpable spleen.
Correct.
But also I want to tell the audience, not palpable is not enlarged. As you know, spleen is required to be more than 2.5 to 3 times enlarged before it is palpable. So it is enlarged, but it has become not palpable. So, also, since this child was put on chelation probably a little late, but not too late, and he was being transfused very well, so then you could have a non-palpable spleen.
Nice.
Dr. H.R., can I just ask Dr. Mamta, what about sickle thal? Would that impact on the spleen?
Sickle thals would generally have a splenomegaly which persists, because they are the ones who do not require regular transfusions. So we do not suppress them too much. Here we are suppressing the extramedullary hematopoiesis to an extent that spleen can become non-palpable.
Absolutely.
Could I ask a question to Dr. Mamta?
Yeah.
Anybody wants to ask?
No.
No, you can ask. You can.
Sorry.
He wants to ask a question.
Sorry, I mean, like, I understand that if thalassemias are well transfused, super transfused or hyper transfused, they don't develop the opportunity to develop extramedullary hematopoiesis. So you won't expect a liver as well. So that liver.
Yeah, so the hepatitis C is a culprit here probably for the liver being large.
Or is it iron?
And in children, generally up to 2 centimeters liver, I do not give any concern.
Right.
More than 2 centimeters, firm liver, yes, is my concern. And this child has HCV antibodies positive, so I would suspect. Also, it is not just hepatitis C. I mean, I don't know whether I should jump the gun and talk about it.
Let us see what is happening.
Yeah, so maybe we'll come to that later.
What is your comment on weight and height in this patient? What's your comment?
Sir, at this point, he is 6-year-old with 20 kilos and 120 centimeters. So it is normal for...
It is normal for him. Right. Okay. Go to the investigations.
His liver functions show an increased transaminase. HCV antibody is positive. We did HCV viral load, which is more than 9 lakh. Genotype is 1B.
Just hold on. Now, would like to know from Dr. Abba. See, AST, ALT is increased here.
Yes.
Could it be attributable to thalassemia alone and nothing else?
Thalassemia alone also, I think, could do it. It could be iron. But I would not put it as the first thing. I would think of either iron overload or some superadded infection.
You are seeing a lot of patients with thalassemia. What's
as such, thalassemics will not have a raised AST, ALT if they are well maintained, well chelated with no iron overload. But if, as rightly Abha said, you could have with iron overload, you could have due to some other infections. Suppose HCV antibody was not detected in this child. It could be CMV, it could be EBV, it could be parvovirus, any other infection which could raise the AST, ALT. But in this case, since we have the antibodies to HCV, naturally we would like to corroborate and say maybe this is causing
that part is agreed. I was just trying to know whether thalassemia alone can give rise, because that is going to be a further marker to assess the patients of thalassemia. The other thing is Dr. Abha should tell us that, yes, they have done anti-ICV. What do they need to do ICV RNA? Not that I don't know, I know it, but for the sake of the people here.
No, I think it's very important. Anti-HCV is an antibody. So it tells you that you have been exposed to hepatitis C.
Yes.
So if you have an antibody, that alone is not good enough to know whether the hepatitis C virus is active or not. So one is to decide whether the virus is active, which is shown by the RNA, and therefore whether there is a need for treatment. Or you may have 10 to 15% of patients who have been, or say up to 20%, who have been exposed to hepatitis C in the past and have cleared. Because of 100 people who are exposed to hepatitis C infection, 80 will develop chronic liver disease, whereas 20% would clear the virus. So if you were just antibody positive, you may have cleared the virus, in which case you don't need treatment.
So all
that
those
is
patients where anti-ICV is positive, you need to confirm this by ICV RNA, which is going to show that the virus is active. And false positivity of anti-ICV, which is present in 20% of the cases, gets substantiated over here. So that is why all anti-ICV, ICV RNA should be done. Now they have added one more dimension here. That is genotype. What is the need? We know that is hepatitis C. Why have we to do genotype?
Yeah, so genotype there are several genotypes, 1 to 6. Now, there are some genotypes which are seen in India. We see mainly 3 and 1 different parts of India, but overall it's 3, and then number 2 is genotype 1. Now, his question is why genotypes? 1, it will tell you the prognosis. Genotype 1 behaves it's a more severe kind of illness. It is the one which is more difficult to eradicate. And it is also the one which needs a longer duration of treatment.
Correct.
So therefore, you need to know what genotype it is.
So it is from the point of view of duration of therapy and prognostication of the cases that you need to have the genotype. So genotype becomes important for any treatment for hepatitis C. So that is the reason. So you have 1B. Yes. 1B is bad or non-1 is bad? Which one is bad?
One.
No, today you tell me you must have read.
It's bad.
Huh?
It's bad.
1 is bad, yes. So somebody gets genotype 2, becomes happy. Oh, non-1, very good, excellent. So people read internet these days, so we should be also. Now give us the follow-up. So this patient has got thalassemia major, multi-transfused case, who had elevated transaminases on your yearly screening. You have found anti-ICV positive. Genotype is 1B.
Yes,
that is the story here.
Yes, sir.
Now go ahead, follow.
This is a follow-up for thalassemia major in this child. We can see that serum ferritin is elevated persistently, which suggests that there is iron overload. We have also done a cardiac MRI for the same, which shows there is no overload in the heart, but there is moderate to severe overload in the liver. However, bone densities are normal.
One point, this liver iron overload, can you please clarify this thing? Ferritin we understand. How do you say it is moderate, severe, moderate, severe? What have you done? Liver iron overload. How have you assessed?
On the MRI T2.
Okay, so this is MRI based.
Yes, sir.
So you are doing it routinely every year, MRI based?
Yes, sir.
So you have a very good database. Cardiac iron overload, yes, fine. And DEXA scan also you do.
Yes, sir.
What is the
Routine.
need for doing DEXA scan?
To find out osteoporosis in thalassemia.
तो विटामिन डी दे देंगे बीच बीच में और कैल्शियम दे देंगे. What are you doing it routinely,
Yeah.
and is it a necessity?
It is a necessity
Yes.
after 10 years of age. We even sometimes want to start at 7 years of age. Preventive aspects we start at 7 years. That is, tell them exercises which will prevent osteoporosis.
Right.
Because iron itself gets deposited in the bone, and that causes lack of mineralization and osteoporosis. Then there are some genetic cofactors which enhance this problem in thalassemics.
Correct.
There are cholia genes and
So
other
that's-
vitamin D genes which also get affected, and that is why it is important to keep looking at the bone density from time to time. And if they have, there can be it could be normal, it could be osteopenia, it could be osteoporosis, severe osteoporosis. So depending on that, we treat them with just exercises and diet, or diet, exercise and calcium, or then if there is osteoporosis, they go on even the pamidronates. And pamidronates orally or intravenously can be used.
Fantastic. Who funds for these investigations?
Pardon me? Yes.
Serum ferritin suggests that
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. There is now so much literature to suggest that ferritin does not correlate with iron overload truly. They have done liver iron content and they have looked at ferritins, the trends. Sometimes the trend helps, but as a one-time ferritin, it could be an acute phase reactant. It could be due to chronic liver injury, liver disease, liver affection because of the disease, because of the viruses, etc. So,
you also have the MRI, which is
yeah, so we always like to have the MRI correlation with the ferritin.
this child actually does have a lot of iron overload.
But he has specifically more in the liver, less in the heart, which is a little discrepant, which happens in some patients. And the bone scan is normal. So bone also he has not deposited much iron. So he is not very badly chelated, though liver is bad.
Cardiac iron overload is also done on MRI.
Yes, T2 star with
So
it.
you're saying cardiac iron may not correlate with the ferritin at all?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You should
you're
not
like-
rely just on ferritin. It is very important today. In today's time, either you do a cardiac T2 MRI for the heart, and a squid is most sensitive for the liver, but which is not available to us. So we also rely for that on the MRI.
Dr. Mark?
Discrepancy in the cardiac and the liver iron load would be related to the type of chelation.
Absolutely, sir.
But that is surprising because you are talking about Desferal being given to the child.
Defracyrox, not Desferal. I know you, Vinay knows it, that Desferal would take care of liver iron better. Deferiprone takes care of cardiac iron better. And Defracyrox is supposed to take care of both. But however, in this child, it is not so simple as we make it out to be. Secondly, there can be sometimes a overlap of some liver disease which is non-iron overload related on the MRI showing up as iron overload. That is also known, but that is not adequately studied as yet. There is just recent literature about whether one should correlate with the liver iron invasive procedure to definitely know this was all iron only or it was some other things.
I have
Wondering whether is this child a little overtransfused?
No, sir. We have to maintain there's a protocol. There are TIF guidelines. Thalassemia International Federation guidelines.
Transfused enough for no spleen at all.
So I have many children. I have 300 thalassemics, of which at least 10 to 15% have no spleen at even 20 years of age. So it is a known phenomenon. And we are transfusing to maintain a pre-transfusion hemoglobin of between 9 to 10.5 gram%, which is the recommended amount which you have to give. And we calculate the dose of packed red cells every time the patient comes, based on the pre-transfusion hemoglobin.
Dr. John, you are satisfied? You see, you can't question Dr. Mamta. She's an expert.
No,
We have to, in fact, I am telling you honestly, I am actually learning from her. We are learning from her.
just one more thing.
Why I raised
So,
this up was, I mean, that's
Fine.
Fantastic.
she's worried about the blood. I was worried about the liver.
I agree with you.
so does it mean that larger the spleen, the more under-transfused they are?
Many a time.
So that's what you're saying.
Hypersplenism means inadequate transfusion or alloimmunization. There are two reasons for big spleens.
Go to the next slide. We have only 30 minutes.
One more question, sir. Dr. Mamta, I just have this
A
question.
separate session for thalassemia and liver some other time.
No, with regard to ferritin and thalassemia.
Pardon?
With regard to ferritin and thalassemia, I work with a hematologist called Dr. Revati who works at the Thalassemia Welfare Society in Chennai. She keeps looking at the ferritin levels. When there is a sudden hike in ferritin, she regards that as an acute phase reaction.
I said that.
So could that mean that is when HCV becomes positive or something?
We don't know.
She starts looking for HCV only then.
Yeah. HCV is one important aspect, but I think even a simple viral infection of an influenza type can raise your ferritin. So I don't think I would particularly relate it with only HCV. But yes, you must look for something is happening in this child which is apart from the routine thalassemia problems.
Now show us the follow-up. This is the 2010, 12, 14.
Sir, this was done for hepatitis C. 2010, whatever is seen, just now I narrated. On follow-up, in 2012, we did liver enzymes, which were on a decreasing trend. Even HCV viral load was on a decreasing trend. However, HCV antibody was positive. At this point, child was not on any treatment for hepatitis C.
That's fine. You see this, Dr. Anshu? Look at this slide very keenly.
Yes, sir.
Give your comments. Give your comments.
Now, what this basically I can see is that the AST, ALT have gradually come down from 2010 to 14. They have normalized. The viral load has gone down drastically from 9 lakhs to only 6,000. And obviously, the anti-HCV antibody will remain positive. So,
the first question is there a need to do anti-HCV antibody in this patient?
There is no need, because once we have shown that the viral load virus is positive, then till the time the virus is eradicated, only then over a period of next 8 to 10 years would the anti-HCV may become negative. So that's not required.
Now in 2014, with this kind of AST, ALT and HCV viral load positive, would you like to treat or not?
Now, this is a very difficult decision, because we know that HCV virus can fluctuate from time to time. We can have fluctuating virus loads.
You are defending.
No, I'm not defending. I don't know what has happened to this patient. It is a difficult scenario.
I think it's okay. HCV RNA is still positive.
Still positive.
Yeah.
There are no cutoffs which have been described, like for B, for treatment for HCV cutoffs. In what I would do is that I don't know. I don't have an
HCV RNA is still positive.
It is still positive, but it has gone down drastically. The reason I cannot say. So is it the natural course that the body is trying to eradicate the HCV? In that scenario, I would like to wait for another 3 to 6 months, repeat the HCV viral load, and see whether he is already becoming negative before I jump to start treating him.
Now, would you like to correlate this 35-30 transaminase is almost normal?
Yes.
And yet HCV infection is going on.
Yes, so that can happen.
Yeah,
yes, that can happen.
Absolutely.
They may
So
have normal transaminase.
AST, ALT levels, will HCV RNA titers positive? I'm not saying 6150, but otherwise, you need not to have the elevated transaminases to say HCV has not to be treated. So that's fine. Go to the next slide.
Can I just ask you, so in
yes, sir.
2010, was it an acute hepatitis C? Because the previous year you must have done anti-HCV which would have been negative.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're following up. So you know at a particular time it was all negative and the next year it was positive. That means the child got the hepatitis C in the past 1 year.
Yes, Dr. Abha and Dr.
Yes,
Anshu
it is in the 1 year.
So that is the onset.
Yes.
You really know the onset.
Yes.
Since they're following it up very well.
Right.
Yes.
So it's not, you can't say that it might have happened 3-4 years back or 5 years back or 6 years.
Highly unlikely unless we didn't find the antibody.
We can only say that anywhere from 2009 to 2010, this child had an HCV infection. So
it's a recent 4 or 5 years ago is the...
Yeah, but no, it's not a long duration.
So it's actually also emphasizing the point I made earlier that in spite of screening, we are still getting hepatitis C infections. I think that's one point. Now, only question you may ask in the retrospective is that if you had picked it up as an acute hepatitis C infection at that time, it would have been much more worthwhile treating at that time, because then the clearance rates of an acute hep C are much better than if you do it later. So. So whether there was whether it made sense, assuming that they could afford it and all the other things taken care of, to treat at that time and whether your response rates would have been better if it was treated in 2010 when we presume it was an acute infection.
What is the chance that they will contract another HCV once again? Next. Because they are anyway going to be dependent on these screening methods.
Dr. Bavdekar ने जो question पूछा ना श्रीनिवास, Dr. Bavdekar ने कमाल का question पूछा, पता है?
नहीं, उनका question का मुझे I have a
why it is not acute hepatitis C, which is resolving over a period of time, and therefore there is no need to treat this patient.
No. Sir, can I ask?
This is a very important question.
Sir, can I ask a counter question to Dr. Bavdekar? How acute? What period you will call it as an acute hepatitis C to treat acutely?
That's the reason why I'm asking the question, because I don't treat hepatitis
No.
Okay.
What
so
we say, sir,
about
acute hepatitis C, if the majority of patients who would seroconvert in acute hepatitis C do so by 3 months.
3 months.
By 3 months. So if you have any patient whom you have diagnosed by as an acute hepatitis C, the max you can wait is for 3 months, and thereafter you should treat. The only difference is in the normal, I'm not talking about thalassemics, that there you don't need treatment with interferon and ribavirin, only interferon alone is good enough. And as Abha said, that the seroconversion rates are more to the tune of 80 to 90% rather than in chronic hepatitis C. Okay. So here, because we have tested after a 1 year period, so we cannot be sure whether this is 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 11 months, so we cannot say.
3 years, 2010 to
No.
2014.
In 2009, the child was negative. In 2010, the child is positive. So whether this has already become chronic, he has contracted it in 10 months ago, or whether this is 3 months, we cannot say that.
चलो दिखा दो दूसरा.
Till 2014, child was not put on any treatment for hepatitis C in view of financial constraints. However, he was...
Are you understanding? We are not like Western people. Sab kuch ready hai. And there is national service available and you can get any kind of... Finances are not there. Understand? It will take him time. Vidayek ke paas jana, MP ke paas jana, Prime Minister fund, CM fund, जुगाड़ लगाना, फिर कुछ पैसा आएगा. ये याद रखो. You have to take into consideration all these things. These are not in the articles. Chalo next.
In February 2014, we started him on treatment for hepatitis C in form of pegylated interferon alpha 2B and ribavirin. This was given weekly and planned to give for 1 year. This was the hemoglobin monitoring during the interferon therapy.
No, isme just go back to another, one slide before. Yeah. See, Dr. Anshu, plan to, no, wo se pehle wala, hemoglobin profile, child was continued routine, so that's fine. Go to the next slide, yeah, here. Plan to give treatment for 1 year?
Yes. Because this is type 1B, so here
normally for hepatitis C, how long you will give treatment?
It depends upon the genotype. If it's 1 and 4, then we will give for 1 year. If it is 2 or 3, we will give for 6 months.
So since the genotype is 1 and therefore will give 1 year therapy, we'll plan 1 year therapy. फिर कब तक चलेगी वो भगवान जानता है.
I have a question, sir.
Naturally.
No, I have a question. This dose of ribavirin seems to be a little higher to me, because it's 12 to 15 mg per kg. And in the thalassemia,
it should be 20 milligrams.
12 to 15 mg per kg is the standard, but this is higher dose.
This is because of the 400 milligram capsule.
400 milligram ka capsule, we couldn't cut that.
Yeah,
According
so,
to his weight,
so then we consulted our hepatologist in the hospital.
No, sir.
Capsule काटना, ये tablet काटना मुश्किल है.
No. What my concern, especially in a thalassemic, because we know that the transfusion requirements are going to increase.
15 mg per dose.
So rather I would stick to 12 rather than 10 and 12 rather than 17 and 18.
आपकी बात
It would have been difficult with the capsule.
You see, another point is here, pegylated interferon alpha 2B once a week. Suppose we would give, what is the other alternative? Pegylated is slightly expensive.
Plain interferon or alpha 2A, any of these could be given. Plain interferon we have to give 3 times a week. And pegylated
for hepatitis C, pegylated is much better as compared to interferon alone.
I think they're equivalent.
That's right. Ribavirin, they have given 400 milligrams per day. So that you have already commented, Dr. Anshu. Go to this, hemoglobin has been well maintained. Next slide.
Just one comment. Before starting treatment, Now there are mixed reports, but overall it seems that higher your iron overload, lesser the chances of response to therapy. So your ferritin was pretty high when the treatment was started. So would it help, or I would probably think it may help, to get the ferritin and iron overload down and then consider starting therapy? Especially since there was no rush to start therapy. That is one
I
comment.
think you have made a very valid point which we had missed at that time, because I don't think we related with the reports that are there in literature which state that the lower you iron in the liver, the better the control of hepatitis C even by itself without even treatment. So your point is very valid. Yeah, that could have been done. But for that, we need to admit the patient, and for 1 month continuously, we have to put him on a continuous IV Desferal drip. And that this child's parents were not agreeable to. So then we decided we will not worry about that part and continue with the treatment. But your point is very well taken. I mean, it's an important point.
Next slide. So hemoglobin has been well maintained. There was no evidence of hemolysis, even when the patient has been on ribavirin here.
Yes,
okay, that is the message from this slide. Otherwise, you have to monitor them. And their transfusion requirement may go higher, or you may have to withdraw the ribavirin. TLC monitoring, why Dr. Onshu TLC monitoring?
That is because we are using interferon and that can cause bone marrow suppression. So we need to monitor.
One is the hemoglobin, second is TLC. Fine, fantastic. They are maintained well.
This is the treatment response. As we can see, at 4 weeks, the viral load on the treatment at 4 weeks, the viral loads are less than 15, which is known as rapid virological response. And at 12 weeks, we repeated, which was again less than 15, which is called as early virological response. His last dose of, he will be getting his last dose of interferon and ribavirin today. So we are yet to do the ETR.
The last one. No, that is, this is at 6, you are giving at 6 months, isn't it?
1.
No, 24 weeks is the 6 months.
After 24 weeks, we have not done.
Why did you do this 4 weeks? You have consulted a very eminent gastroenterologist, adult, who has told you have to go by the American Association and the European Society guidelines. We should do 4 weeks. If the child could not have finances, there is no need to do 4 weeks. Do at 12 weeks. So that is the early virological response.
They had mobilized a donor.
Huh?
They had mobilized a donor.
If you get a fund for a patient from Prime Minister, CM or anybody, वो कहता सर इसमें बहुत बच गया, खर्च कर दे. तो खर्च कर दिया, ये नहीं सोच रहे कि हमारा ही पैसा है.
No, sir. Sir, I think that a 4 weeks rapid virological response was required because...
No, it is required. I agree with you. Suppose you would not get a response, then what would you do?
No, sir. The advantage here is that we have started on a very low viral load. We have got a 4 weeks response. And in this scenario, even in type 1B, we may decide to restrict the therapy to 6 months. So that way we will save on 6 months of interferon therapy.
You mean to say
the
that
cost.
Can we give it only for 6 months?
Yeah, we started with that, but because we have had an RVR.
Agree. One more point, since we are talking of response-guided treatment, there is something called IL-28 polymorphism. Yeah, so IL-28B, if it is a CC type, okay, you may have CC, CT or TT. If it's a CC type, then these are the ones who respond well. This is only for type 1s. And here also you may shorten the treatment to 6 months rather than 12 months.
That's right. Yeah. I agree with you. Any other slide you have got? Just show quickly. So this is the graph and...
this is the transfusion requirement while the patient was on interferon and the chelator. As we can see, there was no significant increase in the transfusion requirement during the interferon therapy.
Okay.
This is the...
Very good. Last dose of interferon given. That's fine. Now, can you just go to another slide? What is there?
Factors of it.
Next slide. Next slide.
Good. Sir, after treatment, you never...
No. Where is my slide? Where is after it is not coming? Yeah.
Sorry.
See, I have 2 or 3 slides with the permission of the chair. So which one is this one?
Chair. Okay. Your own permission is required.
This is 4 to 85% anti-HCV antibody worldwide in thalassemia. Genotype 1b most common. In India, the literature, 60% have anti-SCV positivity. Obviously, because the reasons are different. Genotype 3 is more common, and genotype 1, 27%, genotype 5 is 6%. And just now we heard Dr. Abha in her inauguration. So after the screening of the transfusion has been made mandatory in the centers, from 25% it went down to 13%, which is almost half. So screening becomes very important. Maybe a time will come when there is no need to screen even for HIV, HCV or hepatitis B. Then if you see here, 22% of these patients develop progressive fibrosis in 51 months. Ultimately, 10 to 20% will develop cirrhosis of liver. And more importantly, 2% have HCC associated with high liver iron. Predilection, male sex, high ALT, 6 times higher prevalence of HCC in these patients. Who should be screened? Anti-SCV antibody, thalassemics, multitransfused, elevated liver enzymes. That's why I was asking a question, is it a routine, even without the elevation of the enzymes, to do anti-SCV and hepatitis B and HIV in these patients or not? But general recommendation is if the liver enzymes are more than persistent elevation more than 6 months at any point of time, we should do the quantitative SCV RNA and the genotyping. That is the information I have with me, and therapeutic options is a very important thing. You can give pegylated interferon alone, monotherapy, or you can give pegylated interferon with ribavirin. Most of these patients may have actually, if you give ribavirin, hemolysis evidence is higher, and they may actually require more of transfusion, which will increase the iron load of the liver, and therefore it may not be a good proposition. Sustained viral response that we already have discussed. Sustained viral response, if you see the monotherapy, 46% for genotype 1 or 4, and sustained viral response 64% if you have genotype 1 or 4. So it is better when you use the combination of ribavirin and pegylated interferon, your response rates are much better. SVR in earlier studies with interferon monotherapy has also been good, not bad. Genotype 2 or 3. See, genotype 1 is very difficult. Ek number to bahut khatarnak hai. 2 and 3, beyond 1, excepting 4, all others are good. 66% genotype response and 28%, which is much less when you give monotherapy alone. Therefore, it is better, preferable to give 2 drug regime, that is pegylated interferon and ribavirin. And in case ribavirin is not tolerated, then you can go to only with the interferon therapy. That is the message from this particular case.
Yeah, just to add to this, that there are many newer oral antiviral drugs which are coming into the market. They are not yet been tested in children, but I think this is exactly the kind of children who would benefit with those oral drugs.
Absolutely.
With less other. So let's look forward to that.
There is a dramatic change is taken in the management of hepatitis C. New drugs have come. They have still to arrive in India. Adults are also struggling for that because hepatitis C is quite common. And in children, there are no trials. We don't know even the doses at the moment. So over a period of time, the whole scene might change. But better is to prevent. Better is to have a screen transfusion for these patients. I thank you all the panelists and most importantly the presenter. Ramaya, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you.